Kickstarter games have long been a crapshoot, always promising the moon, often pandering heavily to your nostalgia, and they can be everything you want them to be, but oftentimes they don't deliver. Basically, sometimes you get a Shovel Knight, other times you get a Mighty Number 9.
Wait, what?
Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is the latest Kickstarter darling to release, a project helmed by Koji Igarashi, who is best known for his work on Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Bloodstained promised to bring back that classic Metroidvania formula made famous by the Castlevania and Metroid franchises, with Igarashi claiming in the Kickstarter video that he's been told by the bigwigs that players don't want these types of games anymore. But he doesn't believe it, and if the campaign support is anything to go off of, he was right, as they raked in about $5.5 million in funding for this project. Years went by, though, with several delays. The estimated delivery date was actually originally March 2017, which was a bit nerve-wracking when we got long past that date. There was a demo made available for people who pledged to the Kickstarter a while back. I thought it was okay. Definitely felt like the game needed a lot of work, and the fans have let the team know ever since with loads of criticism. And this was something I actually thought was interesting about this game, because we see what I think is a growing trend in the industry, where development studios and publishers take a lot of this criticism personally and react by calling out the fans, and Bloodstained took the hard opposite approach by releasing what I thought was this fantastic trailer leading up to release that starts with some of that old bland looking footage, but then comments start popping up from players like, oh, the lighting is bad, the game seems pre-alpha, you should delay it, is this a mobile game, where's the detail? And my favorite, of course, art style looks like poop. Then it cuts to footage from the original Kickstarter trailer of Igarashi sitting in this dark room as if he's contemplating all these comments. Then he throws his glass of wine across the room and yells, "I will prove them wrong," which leads into a montage of old versus new gameplay footage showcasing all the upgrades they've made by listening to that fan feedback. One of the moments even lists new versus poop as the comparisons. Were all the comments made in a nice way? No. But yeah, the team, they didn't take it personally. Again, they were receptive to what people were saying. And the I'll prove them wrong mentality is probably the best way you can handle this sort of thing. I think it usually results in a better product that is going to make everybody more happy in the end. But now that that product is in our hands, is that the case? Does it live up to the hype, or is it just a miserable pile of secrets? Now, as a Kickstarter backer, I just got the game yesterday, so I haven't beaten it yet. This isn't a full-on review, more so my impressions after playing a good chunk of it on the PS4. I'm a big Switch person. I often try to cover the Switch version whenever possible, but that version was delayed. I believe it's coming next week. But yeah, from what I've played, I've got to say, overwhelmingly, this is the Symphony of the Night successor you've been waiting for. This title had some giant shoes to fill, and like I said at the beginning, oftentimes with titles like Mighty Number 9, these efforts fall short, very short. But this one, I think, greatly benefited from the extra time in the oven. You can tell, again, just by the visuals, this comparison they did, they used that time wisely. I think the visuals are beautiful, environments are varied. A lot of the time when you're doing the, spooky castle aesthetic, it's easy for things to get repetitive visually, but use of elements like lighting that players were so concerned with during development makes for some fantastic scenery. And the music, again, tough to live up to the Castlevania name, but they nailed that as well. The music might end up being the best part of this game. And it really shouldn't be a surprise because they brought in veterans like Michiru Yamane, who did the music for, you guessed it, many Castlevania games, including Symphony of the Night. Even the voice acting on the audio end is top-notch, with the highlight, of course, being Solid Snake himself, David Hayter, taking on the role of Zangetsu.
How many times do I have to tell you? Our enemies are the demons and those in league with them.
And I say, what is the difference? The alchemists were the gunmen, the shardbinders the gun. All must be dismantled.
In the case of the alchemists, you are right. They coveted the powers of hell and must pay for it.
So, okay, the game looks good, sounds good, but how does it play? Again, very true to the Castlevania, specifically the Symphony of the Night formula, but improved. Controls are tight and hitting feels really nice, especially combined with the physics. Smashing open those candlesticks has never, ever felt so satisfying. The enemies are fun to fight, sometimes frustrating, as with this genre, you'll certainly find certain enemies particularly difficult to deal with. The bosses I've encountered so far have also been very imaginative, and there's a huge amount of RPG growth and customization. Of course, you can level up. There are various types of weapons and armor pieces you'll grab throughout the game that you can use to build out the main character, Miriam, to suit your playstyle. Whether you like guns, a big heavy sword, or of course, a classic Castlevania whip. There's a weapon for you and gear you can acquire to help you perform better again with that playstyle. There's also a pretty in-depth crafting system that allows you to forge gear, cook meals to boost your stats, all kinds of stuff. So while you're wandering the halls of this castle, you're constantly picking up materials for crafting that can further improve your character. The standout feature for gameplay in this title has to be the shards. These are your mana spenders, your special abilities that drop from enemies. Yes, there are boss ones, of course, but even the standard enemies you encounter have a chance to give you a skill based on that enemy, meaning there are just a ton of them. You've got standard stuff like, a fireball, right? But how about instead of a fireball, firing pig demons at your enemies that just bounce around the screen and keep hitting them? I mean, that's a bit more fun, isn't it? I love it. Story, I don't really want to get much into. It's not necessary. Definitely some nods to Castlevania games. But this world does have its own interesting and deep lore that I think people are going to enjoy. As far as negatives, because obviously I've just been gushing about the game so far, there were some very minor glitches. Like at the beginning of the game, I skipped past the intro cinematic after I'd seen it already. But when the game started, it continued to play the audio from the entire intro in the background as I played. That was kind of weird. And just small things like that. Nothing that really hampered the gameplay. In that department is something that I would say was a firm negative. At times, the 2.5D aspect, I think, can screw with your platforming. This happens a lot in these 2.5D platformers, since you're moving on a 2D plane, but you're in a 3D environment, sometimes when they want to warp the perspective, it can make it hard to judge how far you're supposed to jump, where you're supposed to jump. That's, again, only a few specific moments that I noticed that. I only wish I could speak to game length or replayability, which, yeah, I can't right now. But I do know there are several modes to unlock after completing playthroughs, and even on normal, what I'm playing now, this game is not a joke. So I'm sure the higher difficulties are going to challenge even veteran players. As a huge Castlevania fan, I had high hopes for this game, and I'm honestly surprised to say they were met. All around, the game is of high quality, no matter what aspect you're examining. Like I said, it definitely seems like they made great use of that longer development time, and crazily enough, respected and were receptive to the fan feedback. Imagine that, listening to your fans. I can easily recommend this game to pretty much anyone. If you just enjoy good video games, and this looks at all intriguing, you should consider checking this out. But for you Metroidvania fans, this title is a must-buy. It truly is the Castlevania game that you've been waiting years for. And with that, this video is a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on Bloodstained Ritual of the Night in the comments. Are you currently playing the game, and do you feel it's lived up to the hype? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter, @JohnnyZakari, and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends. Link to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.